The red dress hung in my closet for 364 days before I finally wore it again. Not mine. Rachel's. I stood in the Oakwood Academy cafeteria that Tuesday morning, watching Connor Ashford command the room like he owned it, which technically his family did. 50 students moved in perfect synchronization around him, a flash mob that must have taken weeks to choreograph. Phones lifted everywhere, live streaming to the entire school. The drone hovering overhead probably cost more than most kids' cars. My headphones stayed on, music loud enough to drown out whatever teen romance fantasy was unfolding. But I watched. I always watched Connor. Had been watching him for 2 months, 3 days, and approximately 7 hours since I'd transferred here under a name that wasn't quite mine, and a past I'd carefully constructed from digital breadcrumbs and forged documents. The cafeteria erupted in choreographed chaos. Students spun, creating a human corridor that led straight to my corner table. My untouched lunch tray sat beside 3 textbooks I wasn't actually reading and a water bottle I'd tested twice for tampering paranoid habits die hard when your sister dies under mysterious circumstances. Connor emerged from the crowd like some Connecticut prince, all golden hair and tennis player shoulders. The Cartier box in his hand caught the morning light streaming through Gothic windows. Behind him, his crew filmed every angle Mason with his wrestler's build. Trevor spinning car keys worth more than college tuition, and 3 girls whose names I'd memorized, but whose faces all blurred into the same privileged sneer. If you're feeling that rush of what's going to happen next, hit that like button. It really helps more people discover these stories. And if you want to share where you're watching from, drop it in the comments below. For those who want to support more stories like this one, there's a thanks button right under this video. Every contribution, no matter how small, helps me bring you more inspiring tales of courage and standing up for what's right. Thank you for being here. Now, let's see what happens when push comes to shove. The music stopped. 500 students held their breath. Connor dropped to one knee in front of my table, the same knee he'd knelt on when he'd asked Rachel to winter formal last year. The same knee that had pressed into her back. I pulled off my headphones slowly, letting them rest around my neck. The silence felt alive, electric with anticipation and the collective gasp of a student body that lived for drama. "Skyler Bennett," Connor said, his voice carrying that practiced confidence of someone who'd never heard the word no. "Will you go to prom with me?" He opened the box. Not just any corsage and elaborate arrangement of red roses and baby's breath. Ribbons trailing like blood in water. The exact flowers from Rachel's Instagram post the night she died. The one everyone said was her suicide note. I stood up, taking my time. My hands didn't shake. 10 years of mixed martial arts taught you to control your body even when your heart was screaming. The whole cafeteria leaned in. "Connor," I said, making sure my voice carried to every phone, every camera, every witness. "I don't date guys who hurt girls." The words hung in the air like a slap. Connor's face went through a transformation I'd only seen once before in a video on Rachel's hidden phone, the one the police never found. His jaw clenched. The careful mask slipped for just a second, revealing something darker underneath. Then I saw it, the recognition. Those exact words. That exact tone. Rachel's last text to him, sent at 11:43 p.m. on May 15th of last year, 12 minutes before her phone went dead forever. The cafeteria erupted, not with applause or laughter, but with the sharp intake of 500 collectively held breaths. Someone dropped a tray. The drone wobbled overhead. Its operator probably too shocked to maintain control. Connor stood slowly, the Cartier box snapping shut with a sound like breaking bones. His friends moved closer, pack instinct kicking in. But his eyes, those pale blue eyes that Rachel had once called ocean deep, never left mine. "What did you just say?" His voice had dropped an octave, lost all its performance quality. I gathered my books with deliberate calm, muscle memory from years of avoiding confrontation while training for it. "You heard me?" "No." Connor stepped closer, close enough that I could smell his cologne Tom Ford, same as last year. "Say it again." The crowd pressed in, phones raised, hungry for whatever came next. This was better than Netflix, better than any reality show. This was Oakwood Academy's golden boy getting rejected on livestream by the weird transfer student who ate alone and wore her dead sister's face like a mask. I looked him straight in the eye. The way Rachel taught me when I was 7 and getting bullied for being too small, too quiet, too everything. I don't date guys who hurt girls. Connor's hand shot out, grabbing my wrist. Not hard enough to leave marks, he was too smart for that, but firm enough to send a message. The cafeteria held its collective breath. "Careful," he whispered, leaning close enough that the cameras couldn't catch his words. "You have no idea what happened to the last girl who said that to me." I smiled then, the kind of smile that had taken months to perfect in the mirror. Sweet on the surface, steel underneath. "Actually, Connor, I know exactly what happened to her." His grip loosened just a fraction surprise or fear. I couldn't tell. I pulled my hand free and walked through the crowd, which parted like the Red Sea. Behind me, I heard Mason mutter something about "crazy bitch" and Trevor laugh. But it was Connor's silence that followed me out of the cafeteria and into the Gothic hallways of Oakwood Academy. My phone buzzed before I even reached my locker. Nathan Cross, the IT genius who'd been helping me with computer problems since I'd arrived, had already isolated and downloaded the footage from 12 different angles. His text was simple: "Holy shit. You okay?" I wasn't okay. Hadn't been okay for 364 days. But I typed back "fine" because that's what you did when you were 17 and pretending to be normal while hunting the truth about your sister's death. The hallway was empty. Fourth period didn't start for 10 minutes. I leaned against my locker, Rachel's locker from last year that I'd specifically requested, and let myself remember. "Sky, if anything happens to me, promise you'll find out why." "Nothing's going to happen to you. Rach, stop being dramatic." "I'm serious. Connor's been different lately. His mom's got him on some new meds from their lab. He gets these moments where he just goes away, and when he comes back, he doesn't remember." "Then break up with him." I tried. That's when he showed me the photos. I'd found her journal 3 days after the funeral, hidden inside her old violin case. The police had declared it suicide, tragic teenage girl, pressure of perfection, history of anxiety, case closed. But Rachel didn't have anxiety. Rachel had evidence. The bell rang, jolting me back to the present. Students flooded the hallway, whispers following in my wake. By now, the video had probably hit TikTok. Prim rejection would be trending within the hour. I made it through fourth period AP chemistry without incident. Probably because Connor was in his dad's office doing damage control. The Ashford family didn't handle public humiliation well. Their pharmaceutical empire was built on reputation and results. Two things that crumbled quickly when your heir apparent got rejected by a nobody on social media. But I'd miscalculated how fast Connor would retaliate. The water fountain outside the gym had been my first test. I'd watched him doctor my water bottle through the security feed Nathan had hacked, seen him drop 2 small white pills into the hydro flask I'd left deliberately unguarded. The same pills Rachel had photographed in his bathroom. The ones with no label, no FDA approval, just a code X471. I'd switched the bottles, of course. Let him think I'd drunk it while I watched for symptoms, for any sign of what those pills did. But Connor was smarter than I'd given him credit for. He'd noticed the switch. That's when things got interesting. It started with the rumors. By lunch, half the school knew I'd been expelled from my last school for attacking a teacher. By 6th period, I'd apparently been in a psychiatric facility by the end of the day. Someone had created a deep-fake video of me in a straitjacket. The really clever part, they'd mixed in just enough truth. I had been in a facility visiting Rachel during her 72-hour hold the year before. When Connor had convinced her parents she was unstable, I had attacked someone, my martial arts instructor, during a supervised sparring match. Skyler Bennett, please report to the principal's office. The announcement echoed through the empty hallway where I'd been hiding out. Reviewing Nathan's latest intel on my phone, he'd found something in Connor's deleted messages, references to RB situation, and a cleanup crew. My hands shook as I screenshot everything. Principal Morrison's office hadn't changed since Rachel's time. Same leather chairs, same portraits of dead white men, same smell of old money and older secrets. But the man sitting behind the desk wasn't Principal Morrison. "Miss Bennett," Connor's mother said, crossing her legs in a power pose that probably worked in boardrooms. "We need to talk about your inappropriate behavior this morning." Dr. Patricia Ashford looked exactly like her LinkedIn photo, severe blonde bob. Designer suit, eyes like a predator evaluating prey. The kind of woman who'd test experimental drugs on her own son if it meant quarterly profits. "Where's Principal Morrison?" I kept my voice steady, teenage-appropriate concerned, but not scared. "In a meeting. He asked me to handle this delicate situation." She slid a piece of paper across the desk. "This is a voluntary withdrawal form. Sign it, and we'll ensure your transfer to Exeter goes smoothly. Don't sign it. And I'm afraid the disciplinary hearing about your assault on my son will be challenging for your future." "Assault?" I almost laughed. "I said no to prom." "You grabbed his wrist. We have video evidence. Multiple angles." She smiled, the kind of smile that belonged on sharks. Amazing what editing can do these days. This was the moment. The crossroads where Rachel had probably stood, weighing truth against power, justice against survival. But Rachel had been alone. Rachel hadn't spent a year training for this exact conversation. "Dr. Ashford," I said, pulling out my phone, "before we discuss my future, maybe we should talk about EX471. Her smile froze. Actually, froze, like someone had pressed pause on her face. "I don't know what you mean." "Really, because I have photos of the pills your son tried to put in my water today. Same pills he was giving Rachel last year. Experimental mood stabilizers, right? Or are they something else?" The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Dr. Ashford stood slowly, every movement calculated. "You're playing a dangerous game, little girl." My sister said the same thing, right before she died. We stared at each other across the mahogany desk. Two women separated by age and tax brackets, but united in our willingness to protect what mattered. For her, it was an empire built on secrets. For me, It was the truth about why I'd had to identify my sister's body on a Tuesday morning when I should have been in calculus. "Get it out," she whispered. "Get it out of my school." "It's not your school yet," I said, standing. "And I'm not going anywhere." I made it to the door before she spoke again. "You look just like her. You know, same stubborn streak, same naive belief that the truth matters more than power." I turned back, my hand on the doorknob. "There's one difference between me and Rachel." "What's that?" "I know exactly who I'm fighting." The walk back to my dorm felt like crossing a battlefield. Eyes watched from every window. Whispers followed from every corner. By the time I reached my room, my phone had blown up with notifications. The edited video was already circulating me grabbing Connor, yanking him down, looking aggressive and unstable. But Nathan had sent something else. A single line of code hidden in the video's metadata. 46.755 EADs N 7 divided 2.2851 DW. Coordinates. I plugged them into Google Maps and felt my heart stop. An abandoned property in rural Connecticut, owned by Ashford Pharmaceuticals, purchased May 16th of last year, the day after Rachel died. My hands shook as I opened Rachel's journal to the last entry. "If you're reading this, Sky, it means I was right. Check the pool house at Prom. That's where they keep the real files. The ones about what X-471 actually does. What it made Connor do. What he doesn't remember doing. I love you, little sister. Be smarter than me. Be stronger than me. But most of all, be ready. They're not going to let this go." A knock at my door made me jump. Soft. Almost hesitant. Not Connor's aggressive pounding or his crew's intimidation tactics. "Skyler," Lily Chen's voice. "Rachel's former best friend. We need to talk. About the night she died. About what really happened at the spring formal after-party." I closed the journal, slipped it under my pillow, and opened the door to find Lily crying. Mascara running down her cheeks in perfect black rivers. "I know you're her sister," she whispered. "And I know why you're really here." Behind her, the hallway stretched empty and dark. Gothic shadows playing tricks with the light. Somewhere in the distance, I heard Connor's laughter echoing off stone walls, the sound of a predator who thought he'd already won. But he'd made one crucial mistake, the same one everyone made. He'd underestimated the quiet girl. Lily Chen stood in my doorway like a ghost made of guilt and designer perfume. The same Lily who'd held Rachel's hand through their first day at Oakwood. The same Lily who'd been conveniently absent the night my sister died. "5 minutes," I said, not moving aside. "Talk fast." She glanced down the hallway, paranoid in a way that felt too familiar. "Not here. They have cameras everywhere. The old music room in 10 minutes, it's the only place without surveillance." Every instinct screamed trap, but the tears in her eyes looked real. Then again, everyone at Oakwood Academy was an actor, performing wealth and happiness while hiding darker truths. "Fine," I said. "But if this is some game, it's not." She wiped her cheeks, smearing $200 foundation. "I've been carrying this for a year. I can't do it anymore." She disappeared down the hallway, leaving me with a decision. Trust the girl who'd abandoned my sister, or miss, potentially, the only honest conversation I'd have at this school. I grabbed Rachel's knife, a butterfly blade she'd taught me to use when I was 12, and slipped it into my boot, just in case Lily's guilt came with accomplices. The music room sat in the abandoned East Wing, a casualty of budget cuts that somehow never affected the football team. Dust motes danced in afternoon light streaming through stained glass, and sheet-covered pianos looked like sleeping giants. Lily waited by the window, staring out at the lacrosse field where Connor was probably practicing his wounded victim routine. "Your sister saved my life once," she said without turning around. "Freshman year. I was drowning in the pool, and everyone just watched. Rich kids love a show, even when it's someone dying. But Rachel dove in, designer dress and all." "I know," I said. "She came home with hypothermia and a week's detention for breaking dress code." Lily finally faced me, and I saw Rachel's death had carved pieces out of her, too. "That's why I need to tell you the truth. About the spring formal. About what Connor did. About what I did." She sat on a dusty piano bench, and the story spilled out like blood from an old wound. Rachel had been documenting everything. Connor's mood swings, the pills, the blackouts where he'd hurt her and not remember. She was building a case to take to the police. But that night at the after-party, something went wrong. My hand found the knife handle, needing something solid to hold. Define wrong. Connor had taken something different, not his usual meds. He was, God, Skyler. He was like an animal, cornered Rachel in the pool house, and when she tried to leave, Lily's voice cracked. He hit her, hard. She went down, and there was so much blood. The room tilted. I'd imagined Rachel's last moments 1,000 times, but hearing it confirmed made my knees weak. "But she didn't die from the hit," Lily continued, words tumbling faster now. "She was breathing. Unconscious, but breathing. That's when his mom showed up. Patricia was at a student party. She monitors everything through the security system. Has for years. She saw what happened and came with a medical kit and 2 men I'd never seen before. Professional. You know, like they'd done this before." My stomach churned. Cleanup crew. They moved so fast. Patricia checked Rachel's pulse, said something about cranial bleeding and liability. Then she pulled out a syringe. "No." The word escaped before I could stop it. She said it would be painless, said Rachel was dying anyway, that this would just make it cleaner. No investigation. No scandal. Just another troubled teenager who couldn't handle the pressure. I was on my feet without remembering standing, the knife out, and gleaming. "And you just watched." Lily flinched but didn't run. Maybe she wanted me to hurt her. Maybe she'd been waiting a year for someone to punish her properly. Patricia said if I talked, I'd disappear too. Said she had videos of me buying Adderall, enough to ruin my Columbia acceptance. Said my parents' restaurant would fail health inspections until they went bankrupt. Tears streamed down her face. I was 17 and terrified, and I let her murder your sister for my fucking Ivy League future. The knife felt heavy in my hand. One quick motion and Lily would pay for her silence. But Rachel's voice echoed in my head. Be smarter than me. Sky. Where's the body? I asked instead. Lily blinked. What? Rachel's body. The one at the funeral was cremated before we could even see it properly. Closed casket. Where's the real body? I don't know. They took her away in a medical van. Patricia said they'd handle everything. I sheathed the knife. Mind racing. The coordinates. 46.7589 degrees north. 72.2851 degrees west. That's where they took her. Lily's face went white. How do you... Because Connor's not as smart as his mother. He kept trophies. My phone buzzed. Nathan, emergency. Connor's gathering his crew. They know you're with Lily." "We need to go," I said, but Lily grabbed my arm. "There's more. The pills Connor takes, they're not mood stabilizers. They're memory suppressants. Patricia's been drugging her own son to make him forget what he does during his violent episodes. He genuinely doesn't remember hurting people." "That's not an excuse." "No, but it's evidence. Patricia's using Connor as a test subject for something bigger. Military contracts, maybe. Soldiers who can kill without trauma because they simply forget." Footsteps echoed in the hallway. Multiple sets, moving fast. "Back exit," I said, but Lily shook her head. "They'll be covering it, but there's another way." She pulled back a dusty curtain, revealing a servant's door I'd never noticed. Old bootlegger tunnels from Prohibition. Rachel showed me freshman year. We slipped through just as the main door burst open. Connor's voice carried through the walls. "Find them. Both of them." The tunnel was narrow, dark, and smelled like a century of secrets. Lily led with her phone flashlight, and I tried not to think about Rachel running through these same passages, maybe on her last night alive. "Where does this come out?" I whispered. "The old pool house, where they're setting up for prom tomorrow." Perfect. Rachel had said to check the pool house. Maybe she'd hidden something there before she died. We emerged behind a maintenance shed, twilight painting everything in shades of gray and gold. The pool house loomed ahead, transformed with lights and decorations for tomorrow's Night Under the Stars theme. Ironic, considering how many secrets hid in Oakwood's darkness. "Security won't activate until 10, Lily said. "We have an hour." Inside, the pool house was a schizophrenic mix of elegance and decay. Half the space draped in silver and blue for prom. The other half still abandoned. Furniture covered in sheets like bodies in a morgue. "What are we looking for?" Lily asked. Rachel said the real files were here, about X471. We split up, searching behind decorations and under tarps, 20 minutes of nothing but dust and dead spiders. Then Lily called out from the old changing rooms. "Skyler! Oh God! Skyler!" She stood in front of an old locker, door hanging open. Inside, wrapped in plastic like evidence, was a hard drive, a manila folder, and Rachel's missing phone. The folder held medical records, test results, and photos that made my hands shake. Connor at various ages, hooked to machines, pupils dilated, notes in Patricia's handwriting, subject shows increased aggression, but zero emotional retention, perfect soldier prototype. But the last page stopped my heart. A death certificate, dated May 16th. But not for Rachel Bennett, for Connor Ashford. "He died!" Lily gasped. I flipped through more papers, the truth assembling like a nightmare puzzle. "No, this is fake. Patricia was going to use it to make him disappear if the Rachel situation got too messy. Ship him off somewhere. Claim he killed himself out of grief. But then they decided to frame Rachel for suicide instead. Cleaner. No questions about their star athlete son." Rachel's phone still had 12% battery. Her last video started playing automatically. And suddenly my sister filled the screen. Alive and terrified, and so fucking brave. "If you're watching this, I'm probably dead. Connor finally went too far. Or his mom decided I knew too much, but I'm not going quietly." She held up a USB drive. "Everything's on here. Every test. Every cover-up. Every girl Connor hurt during his blackouts. It's all here." She looked directly at the camera, and for a second it felt like she could see me. "Sky, if you're the one who found this, I'm sorry." I'm so sorry I couldn't be stronger. But you are. You always have been. Take them down. All of them. And remember, the real evidence isn't in the files. It's in the basement, level B3, behind the... The video cut off. Battery dead. Basement? Lily frowned. The pool house doesn't have a basement. But I was already moving. Rachel's words echoing. During her facility visit, she'd rambled about underground rooms, hidden levels. Everyone thought it was paranoia from the meds, but Rachel didn't ramble. Rachel left breadcrumbs behind the maintenance panel. Exactly where she'd pointed in a photo from junior year was a keypad. The code was obvious if you knew Rachel 0515. May 15th, the night she died. The wall swung open, revealing stairs descending into pharmaceutical-grade horror. Level B3 wasn't just a basement. It was a laboratory, active, humming with machinery. Walls lined with monitors showing vital signs, brain scans, chemical formulas, and, in the center, a hospital bed with restraints still stained with old blood. "What the fuck?" Lily breathed. I found the main computer, fingers flying over keys with skills Rachel had taught me. Patient files flooded the screen. Not just Connor. Dozens of students over decades. All relatives of pharmaceutical executives. All tested with variations of EX series drugs. "They're using their own children as lab rats," I said. "Long-term behavioral modification study." Lily read over my shoulder. "Creating the perfect corporate soldier. Compliant. Aggressive on command. No messy emotions or ethics." A new file caught my eye. Subject RB Rachel Bennett. My hands trembled as I opened it. Photos of my sister strapped to that bed. Drugged and monitored. But the notes made no sense. Subject shows unusual resistance to memory suppression. Possible genetic anomaly. Recommended for enhanced testing. "Skyler." Lily's voice was strange. "Look at the date. May 16th, after Rachel supposedly died." "She was alive," I whispered. "They kept her alive down here." "For how long?" I scrolled frantically through medical logs, treatment notes, drug trials. The last entry was dated June 2nd. 2 weeks. They'd tortured my sister for 2 more weeks while I was planning her funeral. "Security breach detected," a computerized voice announced. "Lockdown initiated." The lights went red. Somewhere above us, boots thundered across the floor. "Download everything," I told Lily, shoving a USB into the port. "I'll hold them off." "Are you insane? There's nowhere to go." But I was already moving, muscle memory taking over. Rachel had trained me for moments like this, when justice mattered more than survival. Connor appeared first, eyes wide with something between rage and confusion. Behind him, Mason and Trevor and 3 others, all carrying lacrosse sticks like weapons. "You're in so much trouble," Connor snarled, but his voice wavered. "Mom's coming. She'll fix this, like she fixed your sister." "Your mom killed Rachel," I said, circling away from the computer where Lily worked frantically. "After you put her in a coma." "That's not... I didn't..." He pressed his palms against his temples. "I don't remember." "Because she drugs you, Connor. Your own mother uses you as a guinea pig and erases your memories when you hurt people." "Shut up." Mason swung his lacrosse stick, but I'd already moved, using his momentum to send him crashing into monitors. Trevor came next, predictable as privilege. A simple wrist lock sent him screaming to the ground. The others hesitated, suddenly realizing their expensive sports equipment was no match for a girl who'd spent her life preparing for this moment. "Downloaded," Lily shouted, but the elevator was already descending. Patricia Ashford arrived like an ice queen surveying her kingdom, flanked by security guards who definitely weren't mall cops. "Miss Bennet," she said calmly. "Or should I say, Miss Walker, yes. I know your real name. Your forged documents were quite good, but not perfect. Good enough to get me this far." She smiled, cold and calculating. "Far enough to join your sister, perhaps? Though I must say, she lasted longer than expected. Strong genetics in your family." Connor made a sound like a wounded animal. "Mom, what is she talking about?" "Nothing. Darling, take your pills." She held out a white bottle, and I watched his hand reach automatically. Programmed obedience. "Don't," I said. "For once in your life, Connor. Don't take the pills. Remember what you did. Face it." His hand froze. Behind Patricia. One of the guards shifted nervously. "Connor," Patricia's voice turned sharp. "Take your medicine." "No." The word seemed to surprise him. "I want to remember. I want to know what happened to Rachel." Patricia's facade cracked. "You stupid boy. You think you can handle knowing you beat that girl half to death because she found out about the trials? You would have killed her if I hadn't intervened. To save her, to salvage the situation. She knew too much, had evidence that could destroy everything we've built. So yes, I euthanized her. Humanely, which is more than you would have done in your state." The confession hung in the air like poison gas, but I caught the important word euthanized, past tense, before the dates on those files. "You're lying," I said. "You kept her alive, experimented on her for 2 weeks." Patricia's eye twitched. "Waste not, want not." She had unusual brain chemistry. It would have been irresponsible not to study it. Connor dropped to his knees, pills scattering across the floor. "Oh God, oh God." "What did I do?" "You did nothing," Patricia snapped. "You're a test subject, not a person. None of you are. You are data points in humanity's evolution." That's when I heard it. Sirens, distant but approaching. Lily held up her phone. "Live-streamed the whole thing, including your confession. The FBI should be here in about 3 minutes." Patricia's guards reached for weapons, but I was already moving. The knife left my boot in a silver arc, pinning one guard's sleeve to the wall. A spinning kick dropped the second. By the time Patricia processed what was happening, I had her arm twisted behind her back, using her as a shield. "Connor," I said, "the truth hurts, but it's better than living a lie. Rachel would want you to remember, to take responsibility, to be better." He looked up at me, tears streaming down his face. For the first time since I'd met him, he looked human. "I loved her," he whispered. "I really loved her. And I killed her. Your mother killed her. You were just another victim." The FBI burst in like an action movie, guns drawn and voices shouting. Patricia tried to talk her way out, but Lily's live stream had already gone viral. Hundreds of thousands of witnesses to murder, conspiracy, and human experimentation. As they led Patricia away, she looked back at me with something like respect. "You're just like her, too smart for your own good." "No," I said. "I'm smarter. I survived." Connor went willingly, ready to face whatever came next. The other boys scattered like roaches when lights came on. And in the chaos, I found myself back at that hospital bed, staring at the restraints that had held my sister. Lily stood beside me, shoulder to shoulder. "What do we do now?" I pulled out Rachel's phone, finding the last photo she'd taken, not of evidence or bruises, but of us, last Christmas, laughing at some stupid joke, hot chocolate in our hands and snow in our hair. Now we tell her story, I said. All of it. The ugly truth about what happens when power goes unchecked, when we sacrifice our children for profit. And then we burn this whole fucking system down. So the pool house erupted in chaos as investigators swarmed the scene. But I stayed by that bed, holding vigil for a girl who'd died trying to save others from the same fate. Somewhere in the distance, I heard the prom committee arguing about whether to cancel tomorrow's dance. As if any of this was about a dance. As if any of this had ever been about normal teenage things. My phone buzzed. Nathan. News trucks arriving. You ready for this? I looked at Lily, at the FBI agents cataloging evidence, at the ruins of Patricia Ashford's empire. Yeah, I typed back. I'm ready. Because Rachel was right. I was stronger than her, strong enough to survive what killed her, strong enough to carry her truth into the light, strong enough to ensure that Connor Ashford and his mother would remember their victims forever. No pills to ease the pain of truth. The real prom was tomorrow. But tonight, in an underground lab full of secrets and sorrow, justice had finally found its dance partner, and we were just getting started. The red dress still hung in my closet a week later. But now it felt different. Not like a ghost's skin, but like armor I'd earned the right to put away. I stood in the empty cafeteria at 6 a.m., same table where Connor had knelt with his Cartier promises. The news vans had finally left, but the scars remained. Half the student body was gone, transferred out by parents, who suddenly remembered they had business in Switzerland or cousins in California. The ones who stayed looked at me differently now. Not with fear or popularity-hungry interest, but something quieter. Respect, maybe, or recognition of what we'd all been complicit in by staying silent. You know, Nathan said, sliding into the seat across from me. They canceled prom indefinitely. First time in Oakwood's history. Good. I sipped my coffee, tasting normalcy for the first time in over a year. Some traditions need to die. He pushed a folder across the table. Found something else in the encrypted files. Thought you should see it before the FBI does. Inside were photos of other girls, dozens of them, spanning decades. All students at Oakwood, all connected to pharmaceutical families, all listed as suicide, or accidental overdose, or car accident. Jesus, I breathed. There's more. Rachel wasn't the first to figure it out. In 1997, a girl named Melissa Chen, Lily's aunt, I finished. She mentioned her once, said she died senior year. Tried to expose the program. They made her disappear. Claimed she ran away to join a cult. But look. He pulled out a grainy photo of young Patricia Ashford. She was a student then, Melissa's roommate. I think that's when she got recruited, when she realized what power could do. My phone buzzed. An unknown number. But I recognized the area code. Upstate New York, where they'd moved Connor for psychiatric evaluation. Hello? Skyler. His voice sounded different, clearer, like fog lifting. I remember everything now. Every girl I hurt. Every time Mom made me forget. I closed my eyes. Connor. 23. That's how many times I woke up with blood on my hands, and she told me it was a nosebleed. 23 girls over 4 years, and Rachel was just the only one who fought back. It wasn't you. It was the drugs. The programming. That's what my lawyer says. But I was still the weapon. Wasn't I? Even if someone else pulled the trigger. He paused. I'm pleading guilty. To all of it. Dad's furious, says I'm destroying the family name. But I figure it was destroyed the day we started turning children into experiments. What will happen to you, 25 to life, probably? But at least I'll serve it with my memories intact. That's more than Rachel got. The line went quiet, but not empty. Two teenagers carrying weights that should have crushed us, finding strange comfort in shared truth. I'm sorry, he finally said. I know it doesn't fix anything, but I'm sorry. Tell her parents. Tell them she was the bravest person I ever met. Tell them she saved lives, even if she couldn't save her own. He hung up before I could respond. Nathan pretended not to notice me wiping my eyes. So what now? He asked. You've got your justice. The bad guys are locked up. The school's under federal investigation. You won. But I hadn't won. You don't win when your sister's dead. You just find ways to make her death mean something. Now I finish what she started, I said, standing up. There are other schools, other programs. Patricia Ashford wasn't working alone. Skyler, you can't take on the entire pharmaceutical industry. Watch me. Maybe I couldn't bring Rachel back. Maybe justice was just a word we used to make loss bearable. She'd been right about everything except one thing. I wasn't stronger than her. I was just strong enough to finish what she started. And that, maybe, was enough.